Shekhar, thank you for being here. And I'm also grateful to Preeti. Where is she? There she is. Okay. Who's helped us get access to Shekhar. Shekhar, I have 2 or 3 questions before we hand it over to the audiences. My first question to you is, you were a chartered accountant by profession. At 24, you decide to leave that and then go on to become a movie maker. Now, I draw some parallels in a journey of somebody who's just graduated, starts to work, and then leaves that and goes on to do entrepreneurship, which is what you effectively were trying to do. How do you make that decision? And it's panned out exceptionally well, so you seem to have found something early enough in life. So is there anything that you'd like to comment on that?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of the wonderful founders here making a lot of sense about their lives. I have absolutely not been able to make any sense of my life at all, despite whatever you said about this. I left accounting, and I call it the WWF. Wonder, wonder in freedom. I just left. I knew I didn't want to be an accountant, and I just left to be in search of myself. So everything that I've done, unlike a lot of very determined ideas that I've been hearing here, and I wish I was like them, but everything that has happened has happened. The only thing that I've said is, if you're going to do it with every ounce of passion that you have. That's all. Otherwise, don't do it. So I walked away from accounting, walked in search of what might happen to me. I literally went on an adventure of life to say, who am I? Who am I? And on the way, anything that offered me any kind of whiff of who I might be, whether it was art, I've done art ideas, I've walked with every spiritual guru that you can. I've taken years off and just walked the mountains. I've created artworks, I've done many things. Everything was, okay, like how kids are. You see a door opening and you say, I wonder what's behind that door. Why am I not able to look? I'll go behind the door. As a kid, we used to see a ditch. I remember every time that I would run, as a kid, in Delhi, we used to go to the mountains. I would come back with scratches, stitches, hurts on my knees, and all of that because I would run and see a ditch and I would say, I wonder if I can jump it. And I would try and jump it, and often I would fall. But that's so when people ask me, tell me about your life, I'm saying it's been, will be, and a life of walking, wandering in wonder. That's all. And seeing and accepting this idea that life is nothing but a sense of wonder. Anything. So I'm not a startup. But every film that I ever do is a startup. I mean, every film that I can talk to you, if I say, let's do a film, you say, what's the film about? I have to tell you a story. I have to make up that story. So in that way, everything is new. Every film is new. Every film has problems. I've had films in which I've had, decision making. I have 300 extras, 500 horses, 700 camels, and an actor who's saying, I don't want to do this. And I'm spending $1 million of somebody's money that day. So yeah, you have to make decisions. Now, were they the right decisions? Who knows? Were they even decisions? Who knows? Just at that moment, I am a great believer in the idea of chaos. At that moment, you throw yourself into a sort of a chaotic state, and in that chaotic state, you hope that somewhere an answer will emerge, which is not what everybody else is saying here. They're not talking about chaos, but I've always believed that life is chaos. Things that happen to you because you've allowed them to happen to you. Have you made them happen to you? Maybe later, but you also allowed them to happen. Right? Okay. So that's different.
It's quite a bit difficult for me to comprehend that level of inquisitiveness as a child that you seem to continue to have to date. And we're sort of asked to grow up and get into a very organized, preordained, predefined, traditional sort of path. But you seem to continue to want to find who you are and who that path is. And is that true?
Who wants to grow up? It's the worst thing that was perpetuated upon us as human beings. Grow up. Absolutely, just don't want to grow up. Oh my God. I should be a startup founder. If you guys got money, give it to me, I'll make a film. I won't do startup. Well, every film's a startup. I don't know. I mean, my first film, I can tell you how that was done.
Yeah?
I wanted to do a movie, and I was taken to this guy that had a lot of money by the producer, and he said, tell him the story. I started to tell him the story, and he started to yawn. Now what do I do? How many of you know Krishna's story? When Krishna's mother saw the little kid Krishna yawn, she saw the whole of the universe. I saw the end of a career. I hadn't even started in that yawn. Now what I did was, I saw behind him a series of pictures of kids. And I knew I had to do something really desperate. So I started to concoct a story about kids and families and kids, and I wove a story like AI can do now, I did then. I just wove a story, and he looked very interested, so I continued to weave it. And my producer is kicking me under the table, so what's going on? What's the story? You never told me this. But the more he looked at me, the more I realized I'm telling him his story. And that's how my first film was made. Did I conceive it? Did it happen? Was I there? Nothing. I gave into the moment. That's what children do, right? They give into the moment. So you give into the moment. I've not found a better way to live or to do anything except give into the moment. And the moment cannot be perceived, conceived, predicted before the moment arrives. What do you intend to do? Well, I have these ideas, but when the moment comes, if I don't give into the moment, I don't know what to do. Sounds like a perfect guy who go out to raise $10 billion, right? Give you money. But that's actually what life is. You could say anything. That's what life is.
Well, I've had an opportunity to listen to Shekhar over the last few days that he's been in Singapore. He flew in from London and part of some conversations. And every time I've had that opportunity, that little exposure, it absolutely leaves me completely mesmerized with, it seems as simple as it does, but it's as deep as it can be. Shekhar.
Okay, at least I'm consistent. Now that must count for something, right? In the startup. Okay.
Okay. So every startup founder starts in one country and is always aspiring to become an international company or a global company. And you started in India, went on to become a very successful filmmaker in India, and then you go on to build a career globally, all the way to winning Oscar nominations. How did you transition from being local, India only, to international? And was it just events that happened, or was it something that you thought you wanted to do and hence you went out to do it? Is it purpose? What was it?
Well, I was that little kid that wanted to cross that ditch, which I failed. So I was very successful in India. I did a film called Bandit Queen. I went to the Cannes Film Festival. It got a lot of attention. And then suddenly all these people are coming to me, giving me awards, their cards, and saying, Vice President of this, Vice President of that. And I said, oh shit, I should say I'm the Prime Minister of something. But no, I went, I just thought, well, why not try it? And I thought if I move internationally, go to Hollywood, I might be able to tell different stories, So I went like that little child. Okay, here's what I used to do. I'm sure all of you have done this. I'm sure, and you're dying to do it now. When I would go up the mountains, I would go up top of the mountains, start to run down. And at one point, as you're running down, you gather momentum.
Yeah.
It's so exhilarating because you've gathered so much momentum that you cannot stop. That moment when you cannot stop is what we call commitment, right? All the founders are saying, well, we had to make a commitment. We had to commit to employees. When you cannot stop, you made a commitment, because you stop, you're done with it. You'll probably die. So I knew that if I wanted to go play with the international sphere, if I wanted to tell different stories, if I had to go from what is called Bollywood into Hollywood, I had to make a commitment. So I just dropped everything. And I knew I went there. It didn't happen immediately. I went and lived in an expensive hotel, then a cheaper room, then tried to make friends. And finally, before I got Elizabeth, which is the film I did, I was living in people's sofas, rugs, had no money. And that's a commitment. Ultimately, you have to say something because you can't eat if you don't say yes to something. And boy, did I try saying no to Elizabeth. I was testing myself. And that was the only suddenly I saw somebody's actually offering me a film and money to make a film, and I kept saying no, kept saying no, kept saying no, until I had to say yes because I had to convince myself I was making the right jump.
So the world would have been poorer for it if you hadn't taken Elizabeth, isn't it?
No, I don't know. You know, destiny plays a large part. People keep saying you launched Kate Blanchett into the sphere. Maybe she launched me. Maybe it was her destiny playing it out. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. So, we were talking earlier about there's a very nice talk by a guy called Bill Gross. And he says, I wanted to figure out that which of the following 5 things are the most significant influencer of the success of a startup. Is it the idea? Is it the team? Is it the funding? Is it the timing? Or is it the execution? So is it the idea, the team, the funding, the timing, or the execution? Their analysis is that timing is the most important influencer of success. Do you agree with that?
Well, I would change that. I'm not going to say timing is the most important ingredient of success. I would say the measure of success is so involved with the idea of time. I'll tell you how. If you watch the ocean, the trough and the crest, and it's going like this all the time. And at the moment that you're on the crest, you say, look, I'm successful, but the trough is coming. That's where time is. So how long is your crest and how long is the time? But the fact is, success and failure only happen because there is success and failure. There's no success without failure. There's no failure without a concept of success. So they go like this. Everything is contradictory. It moves like this. You will fail. Every company will fail. It's like, in how much time? That's where I bring time in. So success or failure is just like waves in an ocean. It comes and it goes and it comes and it goes. Everything is. The universe is like that. The universe, if it's in constant success, will destroy itself. The universe has to, it keeps finding harmony, but the universe explodes, creates, explodes, creates, explodes. If it didn't do that, everything would be one straight line. And then success would be one straight line, or failure would be one straight line. It doesn't work like that. It's how you look at time. In that time, it felt like one straight line. But actually it was going up and down like this. But in that moment, as you measure it, it feels like a straight line. It's getting too philosophical, I'm sorry.
As you can well imagine, it's impossible to have a conversation with Shekhar without getting completely mesmerized by all the philosophy that you talk about.
It is. I mean, now with AI, everybody's talking about it. The people who will understand AI are philosophers because they are happy to deal with chaos.
So Shekhar told us recently that many of us know a very successful movie. One of the many successful movies is a movie called Masoom. And he recently said he asked ChatGPT to write a script for Masoom 2. And you want to talk to us about what happened after?
Well, and listen, that was ancient times. It was a month ago. And in terms of AI and ChatGPT, 1 month is ancient times. Right? So I said, okay, I'm going to make Masoom the next generation. Can you write me a script? How long does it take? 40 seconds, 50 seconds? They wrote me a really interesting script. A really interesting. It had understood the moral conflict of the first movie. Imagine at that time, I don't know, maybe it does now, at that time ChatGPT could not watch a movie. It could only read. So it's read everything that was ever written about Masoom, every review, everything. It worked out what the moral conflict with. Then it worked out that if he's saying next generation, that means all the other people are dead. So only the kids are alive. So it follows the stories of the kids. And what was really impressed me is the moral conflict left with one of the kids came from the moral conflict with the father as the first thing, and not till the kid's became a father, did that moral conflict get resolved? So it worked out, the idea of a moral conflict. It didn't feel the moral conflict, but by all the reviews and everything that's ever been written, it worked out a moral conflict for the story, not just another story, not an essay, a poem. It was fascinating.
It is indeed fascinating. I want to talk to you about putting in effort, putting in work, blood, sweat, toil to make a product, which is what startups do, and then they take it to market. And just like in movies, on a Friday, you could have spent 2, 3, 4, 5 years making a movie, and you believe that it is going to rock the world. And then one fine day, when you take it to market, the first show on a Friday, the movie crashes. And it happens all the time.
All the time.
And you have to then suddenly deal with all the pressure that come, your reputation, your team's morale, the financiers are saying, oh God, I've lost all my money. It's very similar to the journey that startups follow. So how does one come up to deal with that instant in which you're either a success or a failure?
So here's what I do every Friday on the day that my film releases. I take a gun and I sit at the back of the audience, and anybody that moves their head, I'll shoot. Right? Now, listen, the first thing is take responsibility. I've seen it too often. Oh my God, the writer didn't write the script. Oh my God, it's a natural tendency in our lives to blame something else when you really fail. I think what I've always trained myself to do is my failure. I am the captain of the ship. If it sinks, I sink with it. But I'm the one that actually did it, right? So if the actor didn't act well, why don't I take charge of it then? So I think that it's when you've accepted you failed, and when you've accepted that you failed and you don't run away from failure, it's like that kid that actually fell into the ditch. What did the kid do? He just climbed out and started to run again. You have to climb out, you have to run again, because you're still a child. If you had trained yourself to be grown up, you probably would have gone into depression. It doesn't mean that I don't go into depression. But I'll go into depression if you guys don't applaud at the end of this, at the end of this speech or this thing. But no, you just be a child. What would a child do? Get up, run again.
We're going to take 2 questions from the audience after the next question that I have. So can we keep a mobile mic handy if there is one? Thank you. I do want to ask a follow-up question on that. How does one deal with failure as seen by the world? Now, a lot of founders, 90% startups fail. And for one reason or another, I think entrepreneurs are quite brave to be able to take accountability for the outcome. But from a mental point of view...
You lost the mic, yeah. Yep.
From a mental point of view, how do you handle this thing called failure?
There are 2 ways to look at it. Failure is 2 ways. I look into somebody's eyes and I see myself reflected of your eye, and you're looking at me as a failure, I will see failure. We all do that all the time. People looking at you and you watch yourself and you're reflecting. Or you say, no, my self-worth, is my self-worth dependent on how other people see me? Because the way they see me depends also on their self-worth, on how other people see them. It's a chain. That's how we live. Right? So if I allow myself to have my own self-worth dependent on how other people judge my self-worth, then I'll destroy myself. So I will not allow that. I will keep telling myself, Shekhar, ooh. And actually, there's something beautiful about failure. You're suddenly left alone to think, right? To wonder. The amount of times after a failure I wandered and found mistakes and things. You go on a self journey, a journey into the self. If your film's a success, you're overwhelmed by everybody applauding you, clapping you, and you love it. As a danger, because now you've started to see yourself in other people's eyes. See, look how people are looking at me. When you fail, you're searching for yourself. You walk the jungles. You listen to the breeze, you listen to the trees. I actually touch trees to understand, am I still in touch? It's different. It's a whole different idea of failure.
Well, okay. We have time for maybe one question. There's somebody in the audience who wants to... Okay. Where? Okay, can you please stand up and introduce
Sure.
yourself?
Hi, my name is Sunny. I'm from India originally, but I live in New Zealand, and I'm setting up a business. It's
We
Bangkok
beat
now.
you at cricket.
I really,
Yes.
as an entrepreneur, I'm a very tunnel vision person. I have no idea what cricket, what's happening left,
What,
right.
you're not Indian then?
I have no clue what am I now. I'm a mixed global citizen now.
Okay.
Anyway, Shekharji, I just want to ask you a question. Masoom 2, when the screenplay came up, did you feel it has that oomph to be made into a film, or you're just going to let it slide? That's one question. Second question is...
No, one question.
Okay, sure.
No, okay, I'll let him ask because it's raised. What's the second question?
Sure.
That
The second-
first question, very easy to answer.
Sure. And the second question was, when you see a screenplay and you love it, someone tells you, no, you're making a mistake, don't do it. How do you counter that when you know in your gut that it's beautiful? I know, let's talk about the money. Let's talk about
So
general people.
let me answer quickly. He's got less time. Yeah, I just did the same thing with Barbie. I said, give me the sequel to Barbie. It was an amazing screenplay. And yes, and the Masoom too. It gave me a screenplay that I could have made into film. I would have made a different film. But my script of Masoom, The Next Generation, is better. So I'm still better, right? Okay? Thank God for that. But we are, there are things that if you go to AI, AI cannot do. AI cannot feel fear. It can make me afraid. It can tell me a story that makes me feel fear. It can scan the whole system of all the stories and say, oh, if you write it like this, you'll make people in the audience afraid. It cannot feel fear itself. It can tell me a great love story. It cannot feel love itself, right? So I'm still human. That his whole, everybody's saying, oh, they'll beat us. Which intelligence are they saying when they say artificial intelligence? Which intelligence? Are they talking about the intelligence of the mind, or they are talking about the intelligence of the heart? Because the intelligence of the heart is connected to the intelligence of all of existence. My intelligence of the heart is connected to the intelligence of all of nature, which just my intelligence of the brain cannot, is so finite. What was your second question? You answered it, right? Yeah, thank you.
Wow, incredible. Shekhar, we're going to thank you for joining us on this stage.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks
a privilege to have had...
Thank you for being here, right?
No, and I think the audience has been sitting still listening to the wisdom. And thank you very much for your time on this Founders Speak stage.
Thank you.
We love you forever.
Thank you very much. Thanks.